Hello second graders, my name is Mr. McKay and I work at the Rochester Hills Museum and Van Hoosen Farm, and we're going to do a walking tour around downtown Rochester. It seems appropriate. It's a nice beautiful sunny day and you're not in school right now, so this is a chance for us to walk around. And this is a place that you can come down to anytime. If you're a Rochester Community School student, you can come down here because you live nearby in downtown Rochester. If you're another student from another school system, you're going to have to figure out a way to get down here. But ask your parents to borrow the car keys and just drive on down here, or get on your bike or walk or get a friend. But come on down to downtown Rochester and we're going to tell you the history of our town. A lot of the stuff I'm going to tell you today, I'm just making it up. Actually, it's not true. This is all archival information. This is some of our oldest records. And a lot of them, we have them available to you just on our website. I know you're in second grade. You can probably start being able to look at our website, rochesterhills.org. You're going to find the museum there, and we have pictures and journal entries and newspapers and all kinds of cool stuff that even as second graders, you're going to have a chance to enjoy. So our story is a phenomenal story, and when I try to figure out where are we going to start a tour of downtown Rochester, I said let's pick probably one of the most important buildings in all of downtown Rochester and in all of our history, and it's the big building behind us. You have to realize that none of these buildings were here when the first European settlers arrived here. Remember, Indians had been here for thousands of years before the white European settlers had arrived in 1817. So there's evidence throughout downtown Rochester and throughout our community about Native Americans that were here. But one of our oldest buildings is this one right here. In 1844, it was a wood-framed building, and it was a mill that ran here because right next to this this mill was Paint Creek. And so all of our mills needed a power source, and there wasn't electricity back then, and there wasn't solar power, and so they had to use water power, and a moving water with a stream, with water moving, that turned all the big wheels. So Paint Creek is right next door. They built this mill to be a woolen mill, and this is where they process the sheep's wool. So in springtime, this is when they'd be shearing the sheep and combing it, and you could have people do that job. But if you had a mill could do the work of 1,000 workers, and they didn't have 1,000 workers back then, so you could do so much more work. And so it was a very productive mill. In 1844, that first mill was made out of wood. What do you think happened to a wood building in the 1840s? Did it last forever? It didn't. At some point, it caught on fire, and that building burned to the ground. And that's a story we're going to talk about. And fire protection or fire history has a lot to do with this building too. So when that building burned to the ground in the 1880s, the owners that were coming back here said, listen, we can't just keep building buildings made out of wood. They're just going to keep burning down. So in the 1890s, they built this building. Can you tell what they built it out of? It's red brick. And red brick are not going to burn, so it's going to last longer. And so this is once again a water-powered mill, and this is where they processed the wool for the sheep, and it was a very productive mill. The second largest woolen mill in the world was here in Rochester, and so it employed lots and lots of people too. So we have some great pictures. We'll put those up on the screen a little bit as I'm talking here too. So it was a very productive mill. Even during the Great Depression in the 1920s, when everybody lost their job, this mill stayed open because it was making lumberman socks, which are big heavy wool socks that fit over somebody's pant legs during the heavy snow to keep their pant legs dry, and mittens and scarves and hats, and it kept the young men that were employed by the Franklin D. Roosevelt, who was our president. He did a program called the Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC, Civilian Conservation Corps, and he put all these young men to work, and the men were 18 to 22 years old, and it was all over the country, and they made all the warm clothing here. And then when World War I broke out, the uniforms were made here for World War I soldiers, and when World War II broke out, they stopped making wool items here, and they made flares that would be shot up into the sky, and they would light the sky up to help protect our soldiers. So this is really one of the most important buildings, and it's still a building you can come to. You can see there's a restaurant here. And in the 1890s, when they first built it, they were so concerned about fire in downtown Rochester because almost all the buildings were made out of wood. So imagine if one building would catch on fire and they're all tight together, what would happen? They would all catch on fire. And so up at the top of the building, you'll see that peak. That was the fire lookout tower. And a Rochester firefighter would be up there at nighttime when everybody was sleeping, and they would be helping to protect our community. It's like the first 911 system. It's kind of interesting, and it's still here today. So that's what we're going to be looking for. We're looking for clues to the past, and we're going to look at how you can read a building today and see a building that was here in the 1890s and realize it's still here today, still part of our history in the Rochester area. If you have questions, your teacher's going going to have a PowerPoint program that you're going to have a chance to look at. There's going to be other pictures there. And with any questions, you can come out to the building, you can read the historic markers that are here, you can always call the museum. We would love to have your questions. You can email us, you can find a way to get information to us, and we'll respond right back to you. So this is our first stop, and we're going to start our walk around downtown Rochester. Are you ready?